Celebrities and censors. No one embraced Hughes with more enthusiasm after Hell's Angels than the charmed circle of stars, directors, and producers who made up the heart of Hollywood's power. There were the beautiful people written about in movie magazines and gossip columns and invited to all the right places. Hughes' success with Hell's Angel made him an overnight favorite among them, especially with the women. If it was not his power and money they found attractive, it was his dark good looks. That somewhat spindly-looking youth who had invaded Hollywood 5 years earlier had matured into a handsome young man. He was still thin and spare, yet his face had filled out, and he had the look of an older man. With his dark eyes and hair, he was fit for a starring role in one of his own movies. But even in success, Hughes remained shy, self-conscious with strangers, and one writer noted, when standing in he inclines his head out and down and looks at the ground. Seated, he clasps his hand between the widespread knees and stares at his knuckles. This self-effacing, almost timid public image seemed at odds with the legend that had begun to grow about him. The fearless pilot, the daring driver whizzing through Southern California, the gambler who stakes was his own fortune. For one who supposed bounded in courage, Hughes appeared oddly frightened and subdued around others. The contrast only made him more intriguing. To Hollywood, he was a man of mystery. He never wore a watch. He kept odd hours. He hated to be photographed, and he avoided large parties, preferring small, intimate get-togethers in private homes. Although Hughes was shy, uncomfortable around strangers, and eccentric, these characteristics, which could become more extreme as the years passed, hardly set him apart in Hollywood. The movie colony had more than its share of eccentrics and misfits. Still, the phobia still instilled by his mother, his neurotic fear of illness and disease was maturing, and they now were more compounded by a growing obsession with the details of his work, a compulsive striving for perfection in projects large and small. In the 1920s, these traits were part of Hume's appeal, part of his glowing legend. In time, they would take on a darker meaning. So it's just around World War I. It means that at that time, when Europe was in World War I, Americans quite enjoyed their development in, splendid development in movies. Although he disliked large parties, Hughes overcame his fears when the host was William Randolph Hearst, the Lord of St. Simon, who gave the most memorable parties of his time, and Hughes was a frequent guest. Invitations were extended shortly before the weekend. Guests were asked to be at the Glendale Railroad Station at 7:35 p.m. on Friday. Their rehearsal Chen waited to carry them through the night to his acre estate overlooking the Pacific midway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. There were 2 sleeping cars and a diner, plentifully stocked with liquor. A strict teetotaler, Hearst forbade his guests to bring liquor into La Casa Grande, although he compromised by serving 2 cocktails at dinner. On these tips, Hughes found himself in the company of Hollywood's elite. While a fleet of luminous awaited to chauffeur the guest's final leg to San Simon. Perched high above the ocean, buzzed by soft breezes, Hearst Castle was a make-believe setting for a weekend retreat. Hearst had finished and adorned the mansion, guest house, and grounds with priceless antiques collected around the world. On the grounds, zebra, giraffes, emus, camels, and yaks wandered freely, all parts of private zoo. Wow. Birthdays meant a lot to Hearst. He always gave a sultanesque party to observe his own. He and Marion Davies, his blonde live-in actress, invited scores of people to attend, and they were expected to arrive in costumes reflecting and pre-announced theme. One year it was the Civil War, and Hollywood's finest turned out dressed in blue and gray and delighted in shoving one another into the outdoor swimming pool graced by the facade of an authentic pre-Christian Greek temple. Hughes observed the rules of the game. For a night out with John Harlow, Batman, why not too many nights out? Only one night out. Black and white. William Rudolph Charles on left to right. So this party, this desk, their shoes looks everyone very happy. I didn't see any antique. He looks quite shy, right? Years of circus scene, he became a nobby near the lion tamer. At the Tyrant party, looks like a bona fide native of that region as he posed smiling for photographs with fellow party-goers, wearing short pants, an alpha hat, and a short brocaded jacket. Get along with Marion Davies. To her, he was a big, awkward, overgrown country boy who was polite, nice, and affable. Marion also liked Howard because he didn't talk too much. They both loved ice cream and after dinner engaged in spirited ice cream races to see who could eat the most. Nobody could outdo me. Okay, ice cream races. So Hughes eat too much ice cream, joked with Marion. From young adulthood on, had adopted the diet of an unrestrained 7-year-old. Ice cream was near the top of the list of his favorite foods. Still, when he and Marion had finished their race, he was green from overeating, and he never seemed to have had enough. It was Marion who introduced Hughes to Brilliant Doe, the first in a long line of actresses with whom he would be romantically liked. Billy, an attractive brunette, had excited New York at the age of 16 as Zelig went on to screen stardom in the silent era. After the break of his marriage with Ira, Hughes and Billy were frequent companions, although both maintained other relationships while engaged in an affair with a promising actress. Renewed a friendship with the dark, handsome girl with whom he had dated earlier. So, gone the last guy in the world either of us wanted to cross was Howard Hughes. Saying goodbye to Billy, Raft slipped out of the hotel by way of a service elevator, later starred in 2 Hughes movies, Cock of the Air. So, Billy renewed friendship with the dark, handsome Raft, whom she had dated earlier. The relationship ended abruptly after a night to the town. Raft and Billy retreated to a gorgeous suite at the abandoned hotel shortly after. A call came through from one of Raft's lookouts in the lobby, saying that Howard was down there and that Billy was Hughes' girl. This was news to Ralph, who would never have gone near his own friend had he known of her association with the millionaire producer. Okay, so he wouldn't chase a grab to fight for a girlfriend with Howard Hughes. Hollywood continued to lionize him, but he still kept the movie capital at arm's length, as if as a boy he had felt some pain at not being accepted by his peers, as his mother's letter suggest he was now a confirmed loner, an outsider by choice, who in 1932 told an interviewer asking about the fortune of motion pictures, "I don't know anything about it. Let the big guys do the talking." Sometimes Hughes reveled in his role of Maverick, and in the summer of 1931, when he threatened to make a movie exposing Hollywood things to be entitled "Queer People." Wow. I'm so surprised. Many people said I am weird, so strange. No one said I'm queer. The movie's heroines would depict a world insistently immoral and the sin of their depravities. To combine the worst features of Sodom and Gomorrah, went so far as to hire Ben to write a script and Walter Winchell to play the part of a reporter with a nose of glamorous writing. But before dropping the project after Hell's Angel returned to his early role as producer and let others do the directing. He produced 2 motion pictures while the aerial peak was underway, The Mating Call and The Racket. The Mating Call, and then 5 more films were in the years follow. In Scarface, a thinly wild story of AI captain and his Chicago meth sought to cash in on their national fascination with gangsters. To direct the film, he turned to one of his adversaries. Had filed a lawsuit in June in law charging that portions of movie had been lifted from Angel's incident marked a further deterioration in relation between Hughes and his uncle Rupert. Okay, this Rupert again. The script for Dawn was written by John Monk Saunders, was then married to Rupert's stepdaughter and Envis Ordinary. The script for Dawn was written by and would never have anything to do with something he suspected of trying to make advantage of him. Yet this time he put aside those feelings to woo Hawks, a director whose work he admired. It would take all his charm. Selected a golf course for the peace talk one morning as Hawks was about to tee off at the Lakes Club near Universal Studios. The club's golf pro brushed up with a message. Howard Hughes is on the phone and wants to come out and play golf with you. Was speechless. The man who was suing to stop his film wanted to play golf with him. He bristled. Tell him I don't want to play golf with him. Why? The son of a bitch is suing me. That's why. That's like talking like a child. I don't want to talk with you. Because you are suing me. A few minutes later, the pro returned with another message, had agreed to drop the lawsuit and was on his way to the golf course. Had agreed to a few minutes after the return of another message. They played 18 holes. The story goes that beat Hughes, who was an excellent golfer, so Hughes just make him succeed. And that before that day was over, had agreed to make Scarface. As usual, spared no expense on the film, and which he wanted to be the last word in game pictures. He gave Hawks a huge budget and stayed out of his way. The director hired Ben Hancher to write a script. He discovered an actor named Paul Murray playing in the theater and signed him to the leader role. Was to play part of Scarface's bodyguard. Among supporting was the young British. The finished film pleased everyone who had worked on it but it was so loaded with violence and bloodshed, not to mention overtones of incest between Scarface and his beautiful sister, that when it was submitted to Hollywood censoring agency, the powerful motion picture producers and distributors of America, the agency rejected it, demanding substantial cuts and a new ending. By most accounts, the original ending was a brilliant stroke. Trapped by police, Scarface degenerates into a blistering coward and is gummed on by police. The new ending demanded by the censor was to show Scarface being tried and executed by the forces of law and order. Hawks was bitterly opposed to the suggested change, fearing that they would emasculate the film, but Hughes agreed to the revisions. Wow, Hughes compromised. The watered-down version earned the movie a seal of approval, yet when they tried to premiere the movie in New York, the State Board of Censors refused to let it be shown. It exploded, issuing a statement. The watered-down version earned the movie a seal of approval. Yet when they tried to premiere the movie in New York, the state's board of censors refused to let it be shown. The state's board of censors refused to make New York, so New York So you have so many approvers, the board of censors and the powerful motion pictures producers. Hughes exploded, issuing a statement that liberal defenders of freedom of expression found a hard warning. Issuing statement that liberal defenders of it has been. Okay, let's see what he said. It has become a serious threat to the freedom of honest expression in America when self-styled guardians of the public welfare, as personified by our film censor boards, lend their aid and their influence to the abortive efforts of selfish and vicious interest to suppress a motion picture simply because it depicts the truth about conditions in the United States, which have been front-page news since the advent of prohibition. I am convinced that it has become a serious threat to the freedom of honest expression in America when self-styled guardians of the public guardians of the public welfare, as personified by our film censor boards, lend their aid and their influence to the abortive effort of selfish and vicious interest to suppress a motion picture simply because it depicts the truth. Okay, truth is most important about conditions in the United States. The truth about conditions in the United States, which has been front-page news since the advent of prohibition. I am convinced that the determined opposition to Scarface is actuated by political motives. The picture was originally filmed 8 months ago, has been enthusiastically praised by foremost authorities on crime and law enforcement and by leading screen reviewers. It seems to be an unanimous opinion of these authorities that Scarface is an honest and powerful indictment of gang rule in America, and as such, which will be a tremendous force in compelling our state and federal governments to take more drastic action to rid the country of gangsterism. Hughes' fighting stand won him many admirers. Won him many admirers. The New York Herald Tribune praised him for being the only Hollywood producer who has had the courage to come out and fight his censorship menace in the open. We wish him a smashing success. With $600,000 tied up in a production that had not returned a penny, Hughes had little choice but to fight. He filed a series of lawsuits, first in New York and then in other states, for the right to show the movie. After a series of lawsuits, not just one, after winning the case against the New York censors, he restored the cut. That's very good. An original ending, and released Scarface in March of 1932. With so much in its favor, Scarface was a splendid success, another jewel in Hughes' crown.